Welcome back to Coaches Exploring the Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And today we're on to part 5, Living Life. And it starts with chapter 15, The Path of Unconditional Happiness. And I'll just kick us off by reading a little bit of what I highlighted right at the start of the chapter. You have to realize that you really only have one choice in this life. And it's not about your career, whom you want to marry, or whether you want to seek God. But in the end, you can throw it all away and just make one basic underlying decision. Do you want to be happy, or do you not want to be happy? It's really that simple. Once you make that choice, your path through life becomes totally clear. This morning, I was thinking about this and relating it back to what Jamie Smart says about the only thing that causes anyone problems is the way they organize and relate to their experience. And it occurred to me that this whole choice of do I want to be happy or do I want to not be happy is basically a choice of how am I going to organize and relate to my experience. So no matter what happens, no matter what the experience is, I'm going to organize and relate to it in a way that I'm happy. Anyway, I thought I always love when I kind of connect other stuff with stuff that Jamie says. So I was quite proud of myself this morning.
Spot on, Greg.
Actually, I was reading this yesterday, Greg, as your post popped up after your hockey game, about your hockey game the other day, and that all seemed to tie in perfectly when you're chatting. You're sending a message out to the dad to say, you have a choice. You're going to stay upset about the game all day, all week, or whatever, or going to say, hey, let that go and be happy anyway.
Yeah.
And I guess we can, that organizing and relating to our experience, we can think of a million examples like that, where make the choice.
Yeah.
It then had me thinking this morning too, in terms of this organizing and relating to our experience in a way that we're always happy. It's like, I was just thinking, imagine if we could teach our kids from like a very young age how to do this. Because we often, I'm trying to think like, how does it actually happen where, I'll speak for myself, but you just fall into a default way of organizing and relating to what happens to you. Which means, when my team loses the hockey game on a terrible call at the end of the game, well, I'm pissed off for the next period of time. Like how is it that became my default way of responding or organizing and relating to that? I have to think when my kids were little, it was a trick. Like if they fell down, they would turn around and look at you. And if you were calm and relaxed, they would just kind of get up and brush it off. But if you were like panicky, then they'd start crying and they'd make a big deal out of the fact that they fell down. So I don't know. I noticed early on that like their response was often cued by the parent's response, by my response as the parent, of whether something was worthy of a big reaction or not.
I think that's the answer to the question you just asked. How do you teach them? You need to be an example, because they get their cues from you. I know that I grew up in a house with a lot of yelling. And that was my default mode of communication. And that's when I started to date my partner now. He said, "You're yelling at me. Why are you yelling at me?" I'm like, "I'm not yelling, I'm just communicating." And it took me a long time to it's not so much change it, but let it go, because that was so ingrained in me. That's the way you communicate. That's the way I've communicated for however many years. I don't yell anymore, thank goodness, but that's where it came from.
So you're reminding me
Childhood.
when my brother was dating his first wife, she's an only child. She would come over for family things or whatever, and she would almost always end up crying by the end of it, off in another room alone. And my brother would be consoling her, like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "I just can't handle all this fighting." And we were like, "Fighting? We're just having like a family discussion."
Right, yeah.
Like our way to relate to it was fine, but to her as an only child, she just felt like it was full of conflict. And because we would debate, and we would try to outdo each other, or prove who was right and who was wrong. It's hilarious down that I think.
That's so funny.
But wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach children or be an example for children to create this happiness from the beginning?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be a wonderful place
Yeah.
to live, this world?
I think even the question, I mean, he starts this, it's so simple. The question, do you want to be happy or do you not want to be happy?
Mm.
I mean, you know how even asking ourselves that question, we get up in the morning, do I want to be happy? Do I not want to be happy? You know, because for sure I can see myself at certain points in the day where I'm grumpy and grumbling, and you know, it's stop and ask myself that question: do you want to be happy? Do you not want to be happy? Yeah, it's such a simple question. Yeah, so to go back to kids, imagine if somehow that's in their little minds from the get-go. But I
Well,
think to your point also, it's it's your example too, isn't it? They're taking their cues.
I love that you pointed us back to that question, because it's like baked into it is the ability to choose. Like and I think when the first time I read through this chapter, I don't think I really believed him that it was that simple, that I could just choose to be happy despite, getting a parking ticket, or, some of the examples he talks about, like getting cut off in traffic, or finding out that, last night on Facebook, a friend of mine did a post of him in a hospital bed saying, thumbs up, first chemo treatment done. And I was like, like, I didn't know that he was sick. But you back to Singer's point, it's that simple. You can choose.
This morning I had an opportunity to choose.
Mm.
But what was really interesting was I felt the point of choice, which was very cool. I could choose to be a little upset, or I could choose to be happy. I chose happy and let it go. It just, is it worth it? Is it worth it to get knocked off my balance? No, it's not. That was the answer this morning. No, thank you. I'm going to stay here.
It occurs to me that, like, to feel that decision point or see that opportunity means you are in your seat of consciousness, as Singer describes it in his book. Like you weren't caught up in the voice inside your head. You were sitting back, you're the one observing what was going on and making that choice.
And what was really cool is I could feel the familiar path of habit.
Mm.
And it felt very familiar and comfortable, but I chose the other one.
Love the way you put that, the familiar path of habit.
Yeah, like that.
You some kind of
Put it
writer
in
or
your
something?
book.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. I just wrote a chapter on habit and how you don't have to continue to go down that path. it's a choice.
Mm.
It's a choice. And when you start to see that choice, it becomes easier to make that choice.
Yeah.
Or to choose happiness, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Makes it easier to choose happiness when you see the choice.
On page 227 in my book, he says, of course it's under your control. Like, I love the way he's so like, of course it's under your control. It's just that you don't really mean it when you say you're willing to stay happy. You want to qualify it. And I thought that was really interesting. And that, I think, relates back to the habitual part of it, qualifying things.
Mm. There's also the various levels you go through when you're trying to qualify things. I was just thinking, like, yeah, Vanessa, spot on. Just be happy, just get on with it. And thinking of my daily crazy thoughts, and it's like, yeah, well, okay, that makes sense. I can do some of that. And yes, but hang on a bit, because this thing that's going on with my relation or my friend or my thing or whatever, it's like they don't know that I can do that, and they're not doing that either. So it's you're still in the same thing going around, and just that you've got to sort of go through the level. At least I feel as if I'm still at the stage where I love what Vanessa said. Like, it's just there, click your fingers, be happy. I feel that I still go through. I feel I'm on track. I'm on the path. I'm going there, but there's still these levels that I have to keep fighting with. And they keep appearing. Okay, I'll be happy. Yeah, but I can't do that because so and so said that to me, and then and they're not getting it. So, which is exactly the same story. It's the same thing. You've got to knock it off. Knock it on the head every time it comes up and stick with it, kind of thing. Yeah.
I don't know why, but the image that just came to me with that is the highways here through Toronto have collector lanes and express lanes. And they've redone the highway in the last year or so. So I've kind of lost track. But like, I intend to be in one or the other, and I often find myself in the wrong. Like, I think I'm in the right lane, and then all of a sudden oh my God, I'm in the express. What am I doing over here? That's what it felt like when you're saying, like, I know what lane I want to be in.
Yeah.
And somehow I still find myself in the wrong lane.
Yeah.
He does say when everything is going well, it's easy to be happy. The moment something difficult happens, it's not so easy.
And the other thing he says, which is, I think, so cool, is life will give you what you need to sort this out.
Yeah.
Those are my words, but that's what he's saying. Just live your life, and you'll have opportunities to practice this choice.
Yeah.
And if you do, what does he say? A happiness that is beyond human understanding will show up. A happiness beyond human understanding. I can't wait. That sounds lovely.
Yeah, that does sound lovely. I was thinking the message that you sent yesterday, Greg, when you were talking about your inner roommate loved to be melodramatic in this bit here, when he says, if you want to be happy, you have to let go of the part of you that wants to create melodrama. Oh, well, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be so nice?
Yeah.
This is the part that thinks there's a reason not to be happy. Because as we're thinking about all those the easy examples, like the getting cut off on the road, or someone taking your parking space, or I don't know, those simple things. It's like, oh yeah, I can get out of that pretty quickly. I'm pretty good at that now. But it's these other things. But they're when I'm clinging on to the reason. And holding on to one of those layers, as you put it, Elaine.
Yeah, and that speaks to me of something I can't even formulate it correctly in my mind, something to do with NLP level of consciousness. And thinking, you know, you've got the behavior, and then you've got, it goes on up to the identity. I think it sounds to me, Lynne, that you're speaking about that's the bit that's hard, when it looks like something out there is inferring that your identity is incorrect or wrong or not nice or whatever. That's the bit that I think perhaps clings the longest. There's, you know, as you're saying, it's okay when it's just a parking fine kind of thing. We can get that bit done, you know, go, all right, okay, let it go. But when it's something about you, or it looks like something about you, then it gets a little bit tricky, I think. But for me, it gets a little bit tricky still to this day. Yeah.
I'm even just thinking what you said about the parking fine. It's like, is it really possible, like, go out on my car and there's a ticket on my windshield and be like, yay, I'm so happy. I just learned I'm not allowed to park here. Oh, this is great.
Yeah. And I'm out of pocket.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
Well,
how's this for
experience of, oh, go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, how's this for a spin on? Oh, great! I need to coach somebody new to pay for this ticket. This is fantastic.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
No, I actually have a good example of this, a real life example about, I don't know, maybe a month ago. My husband and I went out in the afternoon. It was a nice day. We strolled around. We sat down and looked at the sea. We came home and we put the key in the door and it wouldn't open. And we're like, that's interesting. Okay. We put the key in the door and it wouldn't open. So we figured out, oh dear, one of us, that would be me, left the other key in the door on the way out. So the door won't open. So of course I'm standing going, that was me, because it's always me. And what are we going to do now? And it was so interesting because in a moment, I'm going back to the habit, the familiar path of habit, Vanessa. I could see in the past where one of us, and it doesn't matter which one, no doubt one of us would have been, oh no, it's not awful. And we're like, now it's Sunday afternoon at 4:30 or 5 o'clock. What are we going to do? Well, we'll have to call the locksmith. Well, that's a shame. It's a Sunday afternoon. How much is that going to cost us? So we went through the whole process. We sat on the step. We just had a little chat. We didn't, amazingly, and this is absolutely truthful because we talked about it after, we're like, wasn't that interesting? We didn't get upset. We didn't freak out. We're just like, oh, we're having such a nice day. What a shame we can't get in. But to notice, but really, really to notice that, oh, we didn't lose our shit, or, you know, we did kind of go, that's a bummer. That was 90 euros for 34 seconds for the guy to open the door.
Yeah.
But it felt like getting off of that familiar path of habit, because for sure I can think of many occasions, and it might happen again. Another occasion might happen when we won't be so calm and collected. But where we made a choice that, oh, we can't do anything about this. There's no point jumping up and down, and we might as well. Yeah. But
Did
it
you
doesn't
actually
always
get
come
back
to
in?
the... Oh, yeah. We had to wait a long time for the guy because he was in another town and it was Sunday, and he charged more because it was Sunday. And it literally took him 32 seconds to jiggle about and get us in the door. But it's the recognizing that you even, you know, to pause and say, well, I have a choice. I can be very upset about something that I have to resolve anyway. The outcome is going to be the same. The outcome was going to be the same. The only difference would have been, were we upset and annoyed with each other potentially, or not. Getting off that familiar path of habit. I love that.
And that's where he says, you know, instead of complaining, you're just having fun with the different situations that unfold. You know,
I highlighted this almost the whole page on 229. It says billions of things could happen that you haven't even thought of yet. The question is not whether they will happen. Things are going to happen. The real question is whether you want to be happy regardless of what happens. The purpose of your life is to enjoy and learn from your experiences. And I thought, oh, like, you know, what is the meaning of life? That's such a big question, but here, very clearly, the purpose of your life is to enjoy and learn from your experiences. You were not put on earth to suffer. You're not helping anybody by being miserable.
Yeah.
My dad pops to mind. Regardless of your philosophical beliefs, the fact remains that you were born and you are going to die. During the time in between, you get to choose whether or not you want to enjoy the experience. Events don't determine whether or not you're going to be happy. They're just events. You determine whether or not you're going to be happy. You can be happy just to be alive. You can be happy having all these things happen to you and then be happy to die.
Amen.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's a being.
Yeah.
But as I was reading this chapter, I'm like, why is this chapter so late in the book? This should be like chapter 1 and the only chapter you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where that was in relation to what I'm going to read out, Greg, but this made me think back to some of the work that we've done with Jamie in subtractive psychology, and I only have to read half of the sentence, which says, "You're letting go of yourself so that you can remain happy," and that just speaks to like all the bits that we've built up, and those habits and patterns and thoughts, ideas, beliefs. Yeah, let those go, and letting go of yourself so that you can remain happy.
Mm.
As a coach, I see my work with my clients as helping them to see that choice on one level. Once they see it, then it's up to them what they're going to choose. But at most of the work I see is helping them to really understand they have a choice.
I had to highlight this part because every time Singer talks about this, either in this book or in his podcast and stuff, I laugh. You're sitting on a planet spinning around in the middle of absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take a look at reality. You're floating in empty space in a universe that goes on forever. If you have to be here, at least be happy and enjoy the experience. You're going to die anyway. You gain nothing by being bothered by life's events. It doesn't change the world. You just suffer.
Yeah.
I've seen that with myself and with clients, how it's almost like I feel an obligation to suffer a sufficient amount. Like, something happens. Sometimes it's my fault. Sometimes it's not my fault. I don't know. But it's like until I've endured enough suffering, I can't let it go. And the worse the thing is, the more I think I'm supposed to suffer because of it. Like almost like a tit for tat kind of, I deserve it. I deserve to be sad or miserable or lonely, or I don't know, whatever the emotion is. But I love this notion of, it doesn't change the world. You just suffer. Like it's, I don't know. To me, it's an invitation to just let it all go, and that there's no need. Like it really is needless suffering.
Well, if you think about it, you can jump onto that suffering boat with whoever is suffering, or you can stay calm and clear and really help them. But joining them isn't solving anything. And I think that's what compassion is, understanding the suffering of another and helping them. but it doesn't say you have to jump in with them.
Mm.
I loved his extreme example of being put into solitary confinement. And he's like, you can choose to enjoy the experience. If they starve you and put you in solitary confinement, just have fun being like Gandhi.
Yeah, and the logical like conclusion that he draws at the end of that paragraph, like as difficult as it sounds, well, okay, yes, can do. What's the benefit of not doing it? Like none whatsoever. Which kind of points me back to the state of humanity, which seems to be for a large percent of people in a state of they're doing it, that bit that makes them suffer. And yet such a simple question, what's the benefit of not doing it? What's the benefit of not being happy? None whatsoever. There is no benefit. Anything over and beyond happiness is a complete waste of time on every count.
Yeah.
However you look at it, whether in solitary confinement or wherever you are,
So I'm playing through scenarios in my head as you say that, of like, surely there must be one example of where it was a good idea. No, can't find one.
And I myself, I kind of questioned what I just said. And I guess part of that problem was one's definition of happiness. Because if the definition and belief that happiness is conditional, then you're never going to get out of it. Nor are you going to believe Singer's words.
Right.
So there has to be a clear understanding of what, at least in this case, what he means by happiness. And I think he sort of explains it later on when he connects it to the Shakti spirit later on, because it's all contained in that bit. It's not a conditional experience, happiness.
He says you don't want your happiness to be conditional upon other people, upon the behavior of other people. It's bad enough your happiness is conditional upon your own behavior.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you start making it conditional upon other people's behavior, you're in serious trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved his little, I don't know what you call it, metaphor, I guess, of imagine you're God and you come down and you say, so how do you like it here? And it's like, it sucks. Like,
this amazing planet you created is terrible.
Yeah, like, well, what about the flowers? Oh, they make me sneeze, or the whatever. Do you think God likes being around with people that are happy or that are miserable? Anyway, I thought it was a very clever way of getting his point across.
Yeah. And thinking, well, if that God, of course, is inside you, then the problem is you've got to hang out with yourself, haven't you? That gets really drastic. Like, of course, you don't want to hang out with that. And I'm just kind of thinking, is that not the voice of wisdom? Like, makes me sneeze. This is uncomfortable. I don't like it here. But it's not the place. It's inside you. Yeah.
Well, what came to mind for me is not only God, but like, who wants to hang out with somebody who's miserable?
Yeah.
And I know, I think about I joked earlier about my dad. Like, you know, he's having some difficult times here and there in his retirement home and things. And quite often I've gone over there and then come home and go like, oh, he's so miserable. Like, I don't even want to go over there.
Mm.
Um, and then
Mm.
and just reading this, it's like, oh yeah, there I did it again. I made my happiness conditional on
Mm.
whatever's going on for him.
Mm. Yeah. Nice reminder,
in his
Greg.
little, yeah,
Sorry, Lynn.
sorry, no, in his little dialogue here when he said, do you think God likes listening to this? He says, what do you think? I'm a complaint department. So there, if you go to your point, Elaine, if that's us speaking to ourselves, well, we would shut up pretty quickly, wouldn't we?
Yeah.
If we actually thought, what am I, a complaint department? I'm complaining to myself.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's quite humorous.
Yeah. Just going back to Greg's observation, you know, it's, I don't know, I can't remember who said the quote, you know, it's about being the change that you want to see. And like, if you want your dad to be less miserable, sort of thing, the only thing you can do is mirror
Mm.
something that is not miserable back to him. You know, it's
Yeah. Well, I've realized many times I'm reflecting back more misery
yeah,
because I'm showing up in a mood of like I don't even want to be here.
yeah.
So
Right.
And I guess it's also about in those kind of situations, it's also about you've handed over the control to somebody else,
mm,
you know. You know, let alone it being conditional. You've just given away the potential, the power, the energy, the Shakti, if you like. You've just given it away.
the other day I thought of this metaphor of like driving in your car with your inner roommate, and usually it's your inner roommate that's in the driver's seat. And but you know, on your way to the car out of the house, you're like, no, today I'm driving. Like, you know, move over.
Yeah.
And choosing to be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
That all brings me back to the perfect design. The human is how perfectly we're designed.
Mm.
When we feel discomfort, it's a message to go in a different direction. When we get upset or we let somebody else knock us off our balance for whatever reason, that's a message saying, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't feel good. How is it you really want to be right now? You know, if we reach out to move a pot off the stove that's hot, our hand's going to move away pretty quick. It's not going to hang on.
Mm.
It's the same kind of signal
Yeah.
that we're getting all the time.
What occurred to me is that or at least my reaction to that signal is I need to change what's out there versus this is like, no, this is inner work. It's getting that
Mm.
signal and going, I need to change what's in here. It's not about changing out there.
Yeah. I know it's the final part, but I love the way he ended this chapter. When you are done playing with the temporal and finite, you will open to the eternal and infinite. Then the word happiness can't describe your state. That's where words like ecstasy, bliss, liberation, nirvana, and freedom come in. The joy becomes overwhelming, and your cup runneth over. This is a beautiful path. Be happy.
Mhm. Am I the only one that when you hear "Be Happy," the song "Don't Worry, Be Happy"
Yeah.
plays in your head?
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
comes up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I used to think that song was quite annoying, but I kind of like it now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little song that's as simple as this chapter. Just, yeah. With a simple little tune, a few chords.
Is that a good place to wrap up?
Yeah. Really nice.
Nice. Well, thanks. Next week, we're on to chapter 16, The Spiritual Path of Non-Resistance.
Mm.
We'll see you again next week.